Hi folks, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to be doing a tabletop review on my food collection kit. It is a pre-made kit, but I added quite a few components to it, as you will see shortly. As such, I'm going to cover the core contents, everything I've added to the kit, the specs, the pros and cons, and of course the costs. And I'll break it up into two parts, make sure I do a comprehensive review. But anyway, I purchased it from the Pathfinder school. And the reason I did so is I only have 72 hours worth of food in my emergency bag, and if I were to find myself in a long-term scenario, I wouldn't have a plan to fall back on. So you might ask, so what does this kit give me? Well, it gives me options and added capabilities, that's for sure. The kit allows me to deploy some sort of a food gathering plan, which I wouldn't have unless I had this kit. So that's the intended purpose of this. So before we get started, let's get the technical specs out of the way, and then we'll get right into the bag. The bag came in a Condor utility pouch. I'm not crazy about it, and that's one of the cons, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the width is 8.5 inches. It has a height of 4.5 and a depth of 3.5 inches. The weight as configured, that means everything that's in there, including everything I've added to it, is 3 pounds 2 ounces. You can see that's another con. It's heavy. It's 50 ounces, 1,420 grams. So it is pretty beefy. Anyway, let's jump into it. The other issue is these zippers stick, and I'm not crazy about this bag, but as you can see, those zippers really stick. And I'll be replacing this bag. I'm probably going to bump up to a Maxpedition or a 511 bag of comparable size, so that's probably what I'll replace it with. First thing I have in there is a frog gig or a frog spear. It's a 3-pronger. They also make 4-prongers. I left it in the packaging because it's rather sharp, so I'm going to keep it shrink wrapped for now. And it also comes with this screw. And this is rather simple to use. You would just put it on a stick, lash it on there, and you're ready to go. You can work around the banks, streams, ponds, and so forth to gather some game. Now the kit did come with a rather nice fishing kit, and this is it right here. It came with this nice paracord lanyard, tire tubing, or ranger bands as some of you might say. It has some monofilament line here, and then another piece of tire tubing to kind of cinch it off. And I'll open it up for you. I'll show you what's in there. It didn't come with bait. That's one of the things I did have to add to it. I added some scented worms, some rubber worms, just to get me started when I'm out in the field. A little bit of power bait, some green power bait, can't hurt. Doesn't weigh much. It did come with 2 bobbers. Pretty decent quality. And I did add some line to it. This is Power Pro braided line for those of you that are not familiar with it. It's about 20-pound test. I can use this to set some hooks along the bottom for catfish, or I could also use it to tie things or lash other things with it. So a little extra line doesn't hurt. And there's very little weight involved here, so I'm okay with that. Now it did come with enough hooks and sinkers, but I added more. I added some 12s and 10s, some smaller ones. There is 6s, 8s, so there's a nice variety there. There's some bell sinkers and some split shots as well. I put some hooks in this little pharmacy bag, but it did come with enough hooks. I just added more. I also have 1 extra bobber in there, can't hurt. And let me just give you a shot of the inside there so you can see there's actually a little bit extra room if you wanted to put some flies in there, perhaps some sort of a lure, you know, spinner, maybe a spoon or something. So there is a little bit extra room if you wanted to put some additional items in there. Now to supplement the fishing kit, I actually have some speed hooks in here, and I wanted to just touch on them quickly. These are speed hooks. For those of you that are not familiar with speed hooks, I'll just go over it briefly. You simply just tie a line onto the swivel here. You would bait your hook, and you would bring these two arms together and set it. Then with that piece of line, you would tie that to a bush or a branch or some sort of structure on the bank and throw the hook with the bait in the water, of course. And when a fish came by, it would hit the bait, these arms would release, and presumably you would have a fish on the line. So it's basically an active passive system that can work while you're not you know, at the bank fishing for yourself. Now, just a word of caution, these may not be legal in some areas, but for survival, I'm certainly going to keep one of these in there in the bag. Now, this is one of the nicest slingshots that I've seen, and I've been to Cabela's, Gander Mountain, Bass Pro Shops, pretty much everywhere, and this is one of the nicest ones I've seen, the one that the Pathfinder puts out. It's called the Pocket Hunter, and I'll give you a nice shot of it there. There's the front, sides. This is nice and soft, so it lays real nice on the forearm. It comes with a paracord loop. This is a standard band, by the way. I do have the heavy duty band, and the nice thing about this is you can actually launch an arrow from this. Here's the arrow rest. It would actually sit in here, and I have the arrows. And this piece here, you would just turn this screw and remove it. Now, if you were going to shoot stones or steel shot out of it, of course you would remove this. This is a removable part. And what goes on here is actually a spool, a tiny little spool. And here it is. I have it. It doesn't weigh much, but you tie your line to this. You would mount the spool right in this area here, and you would tie that line to the back of the arrow. And what that allows you to do is shoot the arrow into the water, and you can retrieve it. So in essence, you could hunt on land with this, or you could hunt over the water. And the way the arrow would sit in here, let me see if I can give you a nice shot of that, is there's the arrow rest, and you just put it into the paracord loop in the back, and this thing is ready to go. Now, I previously mentioned that this is not the band that would be ideal for shooting an arrow. This is a standard band, about 30-35 pounds of pull, sufficient for small game. It would certainly suffice for that. But this is the heavy duty band, and as you can see, it is quite beefy. This one here is about 50 to 55 pounds, excuse me, at 26-28 inch draw. So it is rather substantial, and this will definitely launch an arrow. Now, I'll set this aside here, and let me just say one more thing about these bands. In picking out one of these slingshots, many of the ones I've encountered had this type of tubing on there, this surgical type tubing, and I found it to be rather substandard. But this here is the bomb. I mean, this stuff is just phenomenal. And when you put this heavy duty band on here, you're going to be launching an arrow with substantial force from this slingshot. Now, this is the arrow. This is an add-on item. This did not come with the kit. And as you can see, they break down in thirds. They just unscrew. I just have a field tip on it right now, and that's enough for small game. And they just screw together. And the kit, I purchased 3 of these. I'm only going to keep one with the kit, but I do have 3 of those. Now, I also have shot here. This is 3/8 steel shot, and the issue with this is the obvious. These are heavy. This is about 13 ounces here. There's probably 75 rounds of steel shot in here, but you get consistency with these. They fly true and straight, and yeah, you could use rocks, you could use stones, pebbles, but they're not going to fly as true and as straight as these. So for now, I'm keeping them in there. I'll deal with the weight. I understand it is an issue, but the consistency is rather significant. So I'm going to set these down right about here. What I'll do is I'll pause right about here with the video, and then I'll be back shortly with part 2. Thank you.